Hey, kindergarten, good afternoon. Today is Thursday, it's March 26th, and it's story time. Instead of reading a storybook or a fictional story today, I thought we can investigate some nonfiction books. And this one that I found is called The Life Cycle of a Frog. Animals go through life cycles, and a lot of these life cycles begin in the spring when new babies are born. And so I thought today we could look into the life cycle of a frog. And I know you know this word, we've read it a lot. The life cycle of a frog. And this is written by Margaret McNamara. I'm going to open to the title page. Here's the title page, shows this frog jumping out of the water, and then some frog eggs, some different pictures over here. And then down on the bottom of the title page, there's what's called a table of contents. Lots of books, especially longer books, might have a table of contents. And that's the area in the beginning of the book where the author will tell you what is in the book, what is contained in the book, or what the book talks about. So if you look here, it reads words to think about, and then there are all these little dots and then the number 2. What that means is if you wanted to read about words that you might need to know about this book, you would go to page number 2. Then there's the introduction. That means the beginning of the book. That's on page 4. Chapter 1. How does a frog begin? If you wanted to figure out about the beginning of a life cycle, you could go to page 6. Chapter 2, how does the tadpole grow? That's on page 8. Chapter 3, what can an adult frog do? Page 10. And then there's a conclusion, and that's sort of the ending of the book where the author will kind of finish their story and close it up. That's on page 14. And then there are 2 other things that I'll talk to you about at the end of the story. One's called a glossary. One is called an index. Those are on page 16. Okay. Well, we're on page 2, so that's our words to think about. Adult. An adult frog can live out of water. An adult is a grown-up. You live with some adults at home. I'm an adult. Miss Mitchell's an adult. Animals. Many animals live on Earth. Eggs. These eggs will become frogs, and I think that's such a cool picture right there of frog eggs. Frog. This frog lives in a pond. Life cycle. A frog changes and grows during its life cycle. Tadpole. A tadpole will become an adult frog. Okay, now we're turning, here's page 4. This is the introduction. All animals have a life cycle. First, animals begin life. So that's the beginning or the start of life. And this shows you an example of a life cycle of a penguin. So the penguin goes from an egg to a penguin chick to a full-grown penguin, and the female penguins will lay more eggs, and then the cycle starts again. Then animals change and grow. Finally, animals die. So here's the life cycle of a cat. There's a cat in utero as it's starting to grow, and then a kitten, and then a full-grown cat. A frog is an animal. A frog has a life cycle. Chapter 1, I hear that ch at the beginning of chapter, that ch. How does a frog begin? A frog begins life as a tiny egg. This egg is one of many eggs. You see all these frog eggs? Look at those closely. And down here below the picture, there's what's called a caption. And a caption is words that tell more about a picture or an illustration. So this caption reads, a female leopard frog lays its eggs in water. After about a week, a tadpole hatches from the egg. The tadpole lives in water and has a tail. That doesn't look like a frog yet, does it? A tadpole cannot live out of the water. The tadpole breathes through its gills. Gills are things kind of on the sides of the body of fish and tadpoles and other marine animals, animals that live in the water. And animals use those gills to take oxygen out of the water, and that's how they breathe. They don't breathe air like we do. So if this tadpole wasn't in the water, he couldn't breathe because he doesn't have lungs. He has to breathe, get the oxygen out of the water through his gills. Chapter 2. How does the tadpole grow? After a week or more, the tadpole starts to grow legs. The tadpole slowly loses its tail, too. The caption reads, the back legs start to grow first, then the front legs grow. So if you look, now it's starting to look a little bit more like a frog, right? He's got his back legs, see his bent back legs, and he's starting to grow his front legs, and now his tail's starting to disappear. At last, the tail is gone. The legs are fully grown. The tadpole is an adult frog. And this caption reads, now the leopard frog can live on land. I want you to think about why that frog might be called a leopard frog. Think about how his body looks. Chapter 3, what can an adult frog do? An adult frog can breathe air through its skin and through its lungs. An adult frog can live in and out of water. So when those frogs change from an egg, the egg hatches, into a tadpole, into an adult frog, when they move from that tadpole to the adult frog, they go through what's called a metamorphosis. That's a big word. It means a big change. A metamorphosis is a big change. And that tadpole, as it turns into a frog, grows lungs so that it can breathe air like we do. An adult frog has strong back legs. A frog uses its strong legs to hop or jump, and we've seen this picture before, those long legs. Frogs use their powerful legs to help them hunt for food. And then this page has a little animal fact. Adult frogs use their lungs to breathe on land. Underwater, frogs breathe through their skin. So they don't have those gills like the tadpoles have, but they can breathe through their skin, which is pretty cool. Each year, some adult frogs lay more eggs. New tadpoles hatch from those eggs. The new tadpoles will change and grow. Many tadpoles will become adult frogs. Then some adult frogs will lay many eggs and probably live for several years before they die. Conclusion. Remember, we said that's the end of the story. A frog is an animal. A frog has a life cycle. Eggs. The beginning of frogs, they're laid in water. Tadpole. A tadpole lives in water. It has gills, no legs, and a tail. And then it grows into an adult frog, which lives on land or in water, has lungs, strong legs, no tail, but lays eggs. And the reason it's called a life cycle, if we go back to this introduction, do you see how it almost looks like a circle? A cycle sounds like the word circle. So egg to baby animal to adult animal, back to egg to baby animal to adult animal. And that goes around and around and around. Okay, here's what I was telling you about in the beginning, the glossary. A glossary is like a little dictionary in the back of the book, and it can tell us what some of the more complicated words in the book mean. So a dictionary, if you don't know what a dictionary is, a dictionary has lots of lists of words, and then it'll tell how to say those words and what they mean. And sometimes a book might have a glossary in the back to help you with those words so you don't need to go find a separate dictionary. Okay, so here's one. Show you right here. This reads, adult, fully grown. Animals, living things that move around. Egg, the first stage of life for many animals. Not us, you didn't hatch from an egg. Frog, an amphibian that can live in and out of water. An amphibian is a type of animal. Life cycle, the order of how a living thing changes as it grows. And tadpole, a young frog. And under each of these glossary entries, it tells you what page you can look at to find out more about that. That's almost like a mini index. Here's an index. 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 And an index tells you a topic, like adult, and then it'll tell you what pages you can go to in the book to learn more. So if I wanted to learn more about adults, I could look at pages 9 through 13. If I wanted to learn more about a tail, I could look at pages 7 through 9. So glossaries and indexes are in a lot of nonfiction books, and they can be super helpful. So I hope you enjoyed our nonfiction story today about the life cycle of a frog. Maybe today, if you're outside, you could look for frogs and see if you can see any. All right, miss you, kindergarten.